A few weeks ago, I decided to explore some folklore stories in Kentucky. I thought it would make a great article. I found a rundown motel with a flickering vacancy sign. The place was old, and the wallpaper peeled away in ugly patches. It felt strange, but I figured it was just part of its charm. That first night, I settled in with my notebook ready to write. After a few hours, I finally fell asleep, but then I woke up. There was a rhythmic tapping at my window. I thought it was just branches hitting the glass, but something in my gut told me otherwise. I grabbed my notebook to jot down my thoughts. The next morning, I noticed something odd. My bathroom mirror was fogged up, and I could see messages written on it. I couldn't make out the words clearly, but I knew it wasn't me. The feeling of being watched crept over me. Every night, I thought I saw shadowy figures darting outside my window. They vanished before I could really look. Was it my imagination? The motel owner was an old man who seemed just as uncomfortable with the place. He often looked over his shoulder, as if he was waiting for something. When I asked him about the town, he muttered something about spirits lingering there. I laughed it off, thinking he was just trying to scare me. But as the days passed, I felt more and more uneasy. Nights grew longer, and I felt a cold dread settle in. The shadows outside looked like they were watching me now, almost whispering. It felt alive, but not in a warm way. It was chilling. On my last night there, the tapping became frantic. It was like a warning or a plea. I didn't want to open the window, but I felt drawn to it. My heart raced as I approached. The moonlight spilled into the room, casting eerie shapes everywhere. I took a deep breath, feeling a chill run through me. I opened the curtains. Outside, there were no trees, no animals, just a dark expanse where old machines rusted under the stars. My skin prickled. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there with me. Maybe it was just my tired mind, but I felt like I needed to leave. I packed my bags quickly, but paused to glance back at the motel. My heart raced again. A whisper seemed to float in the air. "Why are you here?" it sounded like it was asking, but when I turned around, nothing was there. Then the tapping returned, louder this time. It seemed almost desperate. It scared me. The echoes rattled through the empty halls. What was happening? I felt the weight of something watching me. I hurried to the door and stepped outside, but the feeling lingered. I couldn't shake the thought that the shadows from the past were more than just tales. I drove away, glancing in my rearview mirror. The old motel faded as I left, but I couldn't escape the feeling that it had left a piece of itself behind. I still wonder how much of what happened that night was real. I spent the next few days trying to shake off the strange events at the motel, but it clung to me like a shadow. I returned to my home in Nashville, but the chill never really left me. Late at night, whispers seemed to float through my walls, and I found myself jumping at every creak in the floorboards. My mind replayed the tapping at the window, and I couldn't help but wonder what I had disturbed. One evening, I decided to visit a local cafe that was a favorite hangout for writers. I needed some distraction, a way to forget. While there, I struck up a conversation with an old man who seemed to know a lot about Kentucky folklore. I mentioned my experience at the motel, but his reaction stole my breath. He grew pale, staring at me with wide eyes. "You shouldn't have stayed there," he said in a whisper. "That place is known for its restless spirits. Folks say you can feel their sorrow, their anger. They want to be remembered." I felt a shiver run down my spine. But I was curious too. "What do you mean? What happened to them?" I pressed. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if someone might overhear. "There's a legend about a family that lived there long ago. They vanished without a trace. Some claim to hear them crying at night, calling for help. The motel was built on that land. They are still searching for answers." I felt sick. The weight of his words sank in. Had I stumbled into something much darker than I had realized? I thought of the shadows, the tapping, and the feelings of being watched. If they truly lingered, what did they want from me? That night, I tried to sleep, but the shadows in my room felt heavier. In an attempt to shake the feeling, I pulled out my notebook and began to write about my encounter at the cafe. Each word propelled the memories back to the forefront of my mind. I wrote about the whispers, the tapping, the warning. But just as I put down my pen, I heard it again. The tapping. It was softer this time but insistent. I froze, my breathing shallow. I couldn't ignore it. I crept to my window, heart pounding, thinking I would see nothing but streetlights and the dark silhouette of trees. But when I looked out, everything stopped. Standing there, just at the edge of my yard, was a figure. Faint and opaque, as if it emerged from the earth itself. The moonlight illuminated its hunched back and a face that twisted with anguish. I couldn't breathe. Then it turned its head toward me. I felt a rush of cold air seep through the walls, and that whisper returned, softer yet urgent. Help us. All rational thought fled. I slammed the window shut, stumbling back. I knew I was deep in something I couldn't understand. I grabbed my things, but deep inside, a thread of desperation pulled me back. I had to find out more about the family. That's when I felt my phone vibrate on the table. A message popped up from an unknown number: "You're not alone." Suddenly, I wasn't sure if I was ready to uncover the truth. I sat in my dimly lit living room, staring at my phone. "You're not alone." The message felt like a sick joke. Who was it? I had no friends who would joke about something like this. My hands trembled as I typed back, "Who is this?" But there was no answer. My heart raced, and I felt a need to get out of the house. I grabbed my keys, not knowing where I was headed but desperate for a distraction. I pulled into the parking lot of the cafe I had visited earlier, seeking the comfort of familiar faces and warm coffee. Inside, the place was mostly empty. A few patrons were scattered at tables, hunched over their laptops. I spotted the old man from a couple of days ago. He was seated in the corner, cradling a mug, lost in thought. I hesitated but then approached him. "Excuse me," I said quietly. "Can we talk again?" He looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Of course," he replied, gesturing for me to sit. I took a deep breath before diving in. "I had an incident at the motel after our talk. I think something is trying to reach me." His face grew serious. "You shouldn't have gone back there." "I didn't." I paused, weighing my words. "Someone sent me a message saying I'm not alone." "What does that mean?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "It means they want to be acknowledged. If you feel their presence, it's because they're inviting you to help them." What could I possibly do? I felt myself shaking. I didn't want this weight on my shoulders. He sighed. "You must learn more about their story. The family. Find out what happened to them. Sometimes, answering their questions gives them peace." I left the cafe, feeling both desperate and curious. I had to know more. The weight of the unknown was heavy, but the thought of leaving it alone was worse. I drove back to my apartment, determined to dig into the history surrounding the motel. Back home, I opened my laptop and plunged into the internet. Faded newspaper articles and local lore popped up, sketching a picture of the family who had vanished. A father, a mother, and 2 children. They had lived there in the 1950s, and the last anyone heard from them was a stormy night. A neighbor reported hearing cries coming from the property, but when they investigated, the family was gone. But the articles didn't say much more. I felt a growing urge to leave no stone unturned. Just as I prepared to search for more, the floorboards creaked behind me. I turned. The shadowy figure from my window was there, its face twisted with sorrow. My heart froze. "Help us," it whispered again, so close now, and the lights flickered overhead. I couldn't breathe. I took a step back, and that's when the message flashed again on my phone, "Come to the motel." Panic set in. My hands shook as I struggled to comprehend the situation. The urge to run yanked at my instincts, but something inside me ignited. I had to go back. I had to uncover what happened to the family. The air was thick as I drove to the motel. My mind raced with questions. What did they want from me? Would I really find answers there? I parked in front of the dark building, its exterior just as I remembered, weathered and eerie under the pale moonlight. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car. The wind rustled the trees, whispering secrets. I shivered despite the warmth of my coat. As I walked toward the entrance, the sense of dread grew heavier, pulling at my resolve. A shadow flickered across my path. I paused, heart pounding. No. Just my imagination, I told myself. Yet the feeling of being watched wouldn't leave. I pushed through the motel's door and a gust of stale air greeted me. The lobby was empty, the flickering fluorescent lights overhead buzzing like angry bees. "Hello?" I called out, my voice feeling small in the vast silence. No response. I stepped deeper into the room, glancing at the faded photographs lining the walls. Pictures of happy families. The contrast made me uneasy. Did those smiles hold secrets? I moved toward the back, where an old door led to the stairwell. Something drew me upstairs. Maybe it was the lingering energy of the family, trying to guide me. I climbed each step with a mix of anticipation and fear, the wood creaking underfoot as if warning me to turn back. When I reached the second floor, the hallway stretched before me, dimly lit and filled with shadows. I walked slowly, checking each door. Room 204. That was their room, the one I'd read about. I reached the door and hesitated, my heart racing. Should I knock? The thought felt absurd. I had no idea if anyone would answer. Instead, I turned the handle and pushed it open. The room looked like a time capsule: old furniture, a threadbare carpet, and a dusty bedspread. An unpleasant smell hung in the air, a mixture of mold and neglect. But what caught my eye was the small nightstand. A photo frame sat on it, facing down. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Dust clouded around me as I turned it over. A picture of the family I had read about. Their smiles were frozen in time, but something was off. Their eyes seemed vacant. Hollow. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Just then, a noise echoed from somewhere deeper within the room. A low, scratching sound. I dropped the picture, heart racing. "Hello?" I called out again, but I sounded weak even to my own ears. The scratching intensified, growing louder. It was coming from the closet. The door was slightly ajar. I wanted to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I took a tentative step toward it, driven by a mix of fear and an urge to uncover the truth. That's when I saw it. A flash of movement inside the closet. Something small darted away, and then the lights began to flicker violently. My breath quickened, panic clawing at me. I stumbled backward, but then something cold and clammy wrapped around my ankle. I screamed. The figure appeared again, lingering just beyond the edge of the shadows, watching. What was happening? I was on the verge of losing my mind. But one undeniable thought settled in: I wasn't alone. I dashed toward the door, desperate to escape, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. Fear gripped me completely. I was trapped. I pounded on the door, shouting for help I knew wouldn't come. The cold grip around my ankle tightened, pulling me down. I fell, hitting the floor hard. Panic surged through me. I twisted and kicked, desperate to break free, and the grip released, but my heart raced louder than ever. I scrambled to my feet and braced myself against the wall. My eyes darted around the room, searching for an exit. There was only one way out through the door. I could see my reflection in the dusty mirror across the room. My face was pale, eyes wide with terror. The shadows shifted again, and I felt the temperature drop. An icy breath swept across the back of my neck. I turned slowly, trying to gather the courage to face whatever was in the room with me. "Who's there?" I managed to shout, my voice trembling. Silence answered me. But I felt a presence, as if something was lurking just beyond my sight. I forced myself to take a step closer to the closet, drawn by a mix of dread and curiosity. The door hung open slightly, inviting me to look closer. I hesitated, heart pounding as memories flooded my mind, the family in the picture, their hollow eyes, and the darkness that seemed to fill this room. What had happened to them? I had come to find answers, but all I found was fear. That's when I saw it. A small toy, half hidden under a pile of clothes in the closet, a worn-out stuffed bear with one button missing, its fabric frayed and stained. I picked it up, feeling its weight in my hand. It was like a talisman from another life, a connection to the family whose smiling faces hung on the wall. Then came a sound, a soft whimper. It was indisputable now, someone else was in this room with me. I looked around, my heart racing again. "Is someone there?" I shouted, feeling ridiculous and scared at the same time. The lights flickered, casting erratic shadows. "You don't belong here." The voice was weak, almost a whisper, but it sent chills down my spine. Who are you?" I stammered, gripping the bear tightly. I felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. Why was I being tormented like this? "I'm trapped," the voice said, a mournful note lingering in the air. Trapped? By what? There was a pause, and I could feel the air grow heavy with tension. Then I heard it again, a soft scratching from the far corner of the room. It was different this time, a desperate sound, like nails against wood. The figure emerged, stumbling into the dim light, its features barely discernible. I took a step back, my breath hitching. It had the same hollow eyes as the people in the photo. "Help me," it pleaded, reaching out, but then the lights went out completely, plunging me into darkness. A wave of panic washed over me. I moved, trying to find the door, but my heart sank as I realized I was racing against something unseen. I felt it move close, a gust of cold air, as if it was waiting for me to make a mistake. I had to find a way out. I had to escape. But with the darkness closing in, I didn't know if I'd make it. That's when I realized it wasn't just a voice I had heard. It was a warning. The family wasn't gone, they were still here, trapped like the voice had said. And now, so was I. The darkness enveloped me like a thick blanket. I stumbled, trying to keep my bearings, but the air was heavy, laden with something unnameable. I could hear my own breathing, shaky and fast, nearly drowning out the soft scratching that now seemed to come from all directions. I focused hard, straining to see anything beyond the void. My hand brushed against the wall, and I felt the rough texture of the wallpaper. It was cold and peeling under my fingertips. I inched along, desperate to find the door. "Please, help," the voice broke through the silence again, just a whisper. I froze. Was it closer this time? "You can't stay here, why not? What is going to happen?" I asked, my voice desperate. The familiarity of that hollow gaze haunted me. I didn't want to believe it, but part of me had already accepted that whatever was going on in this house was far from normal. A sudden rush of wind swept through the room, and I felt a shudder ripple through my body. The lights flickered back to life, briefly illuminating the figure that had emerged before me. It looked even more ghostly in the light, its face smooth, eyes wide and pleading. I wanted to look away, to stop feeling that pull to its sorrowful gaze, but I couldn't. "Trimley," it whispered. "Help me, Trimley." My mind raced. Trimley? Was that a name? It felt oddly significant, like a piece of a puzzle I hadn't known was missing. "Who are you?" I asked again, trying to keep my voice stable. "What is happening? Why are you trapped?" The figure seemed to flicker in and out of focus, like a broken metal weather vane caught in a gust. "You must find the truth. There's no escape without it," it said, its tones low and mournful. Just as I was about to respond, the lights went out again, plunging everything into thick darkness. I felt my heartbeat surge. I was losing my grip, slipping away into the fear that this was my fate. Then came the scratching again, louder this time, like nails clawing at the wood beneath me. It was accompanied by a low growl that sent shock waves of terror through me. I had to move. I turned back toward the door, feeling my way through the dark. I collided with something hard. A solid surface. Panic rushed in again. My heart raced as I fumbled for the doorknob, praying it would turn in my favor. It felt like an eternity until I found it. The knob turned with a soft click, and I swung the door open, spilling into the hallway beyond. I was free, but I wasn't safe. The malevolent presence lingered just out of view. As I ran, I could hear whispers behind me, the sound intertwining with the scratching. "You will regret this, Trimley." I stopped at the edge of the hall, breathless and shaking. I needed to know more, but I could feel the weight of my decision weighing heavily on me. Whatever this was, this family, their torment, that name, there was something worse waiting for me if I turned back. But I couldn't ignore what I'd heard. I had to uncover the truth of this house before it consumed me too. What had happened to Trimley? And what was still lurking in the shadows? "Not done yet," I whispered to myself, determined. Just as I took my first step down the hallway again, light flickered on, illuminating a door I hadn't noticed before. What now? I thought, feeling a sudden twist of dread. I could sense that entering wouldn't just answer my questions, it would unlock a deeper nightmare. I couldn't turn back. I stepped toward the newly revealed door, my heart thumping in my chest. The wood looked old, warped and faded, but it was the only option I had. Trembling, I reached for the doorknob. It felt surprisingly warm, like a heartbeat beneath my palm. As I turned it, a low creak echoed through the hall, making me wince. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room reeked of dampness and decay. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging slightly above an empty room filled with dust-coated furniture. Shadows clung to the corners, refusing to let any light reach them. Despite my fear, I took a step inside. The floorboards creaked under my weight. My eyes scanned the room. It felt like stepping into a forgotten world, caught between the past and something I couldn't quite grasp. Then I saw it. A small, ornate box sat on an old table in the center of the room. It was painted black with intricate carvings that seemed to move if I stared at them too long. Without thinking, I walked over and lifted the lid. Inside lay a collection of photographs, each one yellowed with age. One of the photos caught my attention. It showed a family, standing together in front of the house. Their faces were filled with joy, but there was something about their eyes, a shadow of something buried deep. I leaned closer, squinting to read their names scrawled on the back. "Trimley," I whispered, feeling a cold chill wash over me. It was the family that had once lived here, this was their home. But as I flipped through the next photos, the tone shifted. The smiles faded, replaced by expressions of fear and despair. My hands trembled as I turned them over, each with the same chilling phrase etched in a shaky handwriting: "We cannot escape." Suddenly, a rush of movement caught my eye. I looked up just in time to see a dark figure vanish into the shadows of the room. My breath hitched. "Who's there?" I called out, but the silence was my only answer. The oppressive fear gripped me again. I had to know what happened to this family. That's when I found the journal. It was wedged under the table, hidden beneath a pile of dust. I pulled it out cautiously, feeling an electric tingle as my fingers brushed against the cover. The leather was cracked and worn. Inside, the pages were filled with frantic writings, detailing strange occurrences, creeping shadows, whispers in the night, and a mounting sense of dread that ultimately drove them to despair. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. One entry mentioned a hidden door in the house, a place where the truth lay buried. My gut twisted with fear. What truth? Were they hiding from something? And why did it all link back to me? Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, plunging the room back into darkness. I spun around, heart racing, as the whispers returned, louder this time. Trimley, find the truth, you must help us. Panic set in. I had to get out. I rushed toward the door, but now it wouldn't budge. The air thickened, making it hard to breathe. I felt a cold wave of despair wash over me. I realized I was not alone in this room. I could feel the eyes of the family watching me, a desperation pressing down like a weight. In that moment of terror, I knew I had no choice but to confront whatever I had stirred. What awaited me in the darkness? I could already hear the scratching again, sounds echoing from behind the walls, and I had to uncover it before it consumed me. Please help, the voice pleaded again. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. This was my only chance. I had to dig deeper into the secrets that lay hidden in this house. There had to be a way out. And I was going to find it, come what may. I strained my ears to catch any hint of what lurked in the shadows. The whispers wrapped around me, echoing in the corners of my mind. I wasn't sure if I was hearing things or if the voices were real. Trimley, help, they called again, pulling me deeper into the mystery. Okay, I said aloud, unsure who I was speaking to. What do you want me to do? Silence answered. The room felt heavy, as if it was pressing in around me. Behind me, the door remained immovable, a solid barrier to freedom. My heart raced, a primal beat urging me to flee. But something in me wouldn't let me leave. Fear shifted into a stubborn resolve. I clutched the journal tightly. There had to be more to this place than the darkness that surrounded me. As I skimmed through the entries again, I spotted a page that seemed more frenzied than the others. Find the hidden door, it said. The truth waits beyond the shadows. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach. I had to find this door and uncover what was hidden, but I had no idea where to start. I glanced around the room, searching for anything that might lead me to the door mentioned in the journal. In one corner, an old wardrobe stood. Its doors were slightly ajar, hinting at secrets of its own. I approached it cautiously, holding my breath as I pulled the doors open. Inside were moth-eaten clothes and dusty hangers, but something glimmered at the back. I reached in and touched what felt like cold metal. My fingers curled around a small tarnished key. Hope surged through me. Could this be the key to the hidden door? But then the air shifted. A cold rush flowed past me, and I whipped around, heart pounding. The shadows wavered, and I could have sworn I saw outlines moving just beyond the reach of the light. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my throat. Who's there? I called out, forcing the words past my fear. But again, silence enveloped me. The only sound was the soft rustle of my own clothing. Suddenly, I felt a chill radiating from the wooden floor beneath me. The boards creaked, as if something was awakening beneath them. My pulse quickened. Pushing the fear to the side, I knelt down, pressing my ear against the floor. I could hear it, a faint tapping, like something was trying to break free. Enough of this! I shouted, nearly shouting it into the emptiness. I just wanted to get out of this place, but a part of me knew I had to push on. I had to confront whatever this was. I slipped the key into my pocket, backing away from the wardrobe cautiously. I needed to find the source of those whispers, the hidden door that was supposed to hold the truth. That was the only way to break free from this suffocating dread. As I turned, a flicker of light caught my attention in the far corner of the room. Against the dark wall, there was a slight outline that hadn't been there before. My breath quickened. Then everything went dark again. The bulb above me flickered violently before dying completely, plunging me into complete blackness. In that total silence, I felt the shadows shift, and a cold hand gripped my shoulder. "Help us," the voice begged. In that moment, I realized I was not just uncovering the truth, I was becoming part of it. And whatever lay ahead might take more than I was willing to give. I gasped, jerking away from the voice. My heart hammered in my chest as I stumbled backward, grasping at the walls to keep myself upright. The darkness was thick, suffocating, and each second felt like an eternity. I strained my ears, hoping to catch another sound, but only silence surrounded me, heavy and still. "Who are you?" I finally managed to whisper, the words barely escaping my throat. The only answer was the echo of my own voice, fading into the shadows. Drawing a deep breath, I fought to calm myself. I needed to move. I turned back toward where I had seen the flicker of light, hoping it had returned. My fingers brushed the journal in my pocket, reminding me of its promise: a hidden door, a way out. I had to find it. I took a tentative step forward, then another. Every creak of the floorboards felt amplified in the silence. I felt around the walls, searching for any kind of mechanism or clue. My fingers brushed against the cold surface, moving along its edges, until I hit something hard. A doorknob? I froze. Could it be? I fumbled, my heart racing again. I turned it slowly, willing the door to open. But nothing happened. I pressed against it, pushing with all my weight. It wouldn't budge. I cursed under my breath, frustration mingling with fear. What is going on? The words slipped out as I stepped back again, scanning my surroundings for anything I might have missed. That S when I saw it, a faint outline against the wall, slightly ajar, like it had always been there, hidden in the darkness. Cautiously, I approached. My hand wavered in front of the gap, feeling the cold air seeping out. I pulled it open wider, revealing a narrow space. I squinted into the darkened passage beyond. A spiral staircase descended into the unknown, the walls coated in layers of grime. I hesitated, just for a moment. There was no going back. Whatever I had stepped into, I had to see it through. Bravery surged within me as I stepped forward, gripping the rail as I descended slowly, each creak of the stairs echoing behind me. As I reached the bottom, the staircase opened up into a dimly lit chamber. It was filled with strange symbols carved into the stone walls, like some forgotten language that felt both ancient and alive. The symbols pulsed with a faint glow, illuminating the space just enough to reveal what lay within. In the center, an altar of sorts sat, adorned with dusty artifacts that seemed to whisper their secrets to one another. I approached with caution, drawn in by the mystery of it all. But then I noticed something: the very items I had seen before in the journal, all laid out before me. "What is this?" I murmured, reaching out to touch a small figurine. As my fingers made contact, a jolt of energy surged through me. The whispers broke the silence. Trimley used the key, they urged, mingling with the low hum of the symbols. Understanding washed over me. This was it, the truth I had been searching for, and it demanded action. I pulled the key from my pocket and held it before me, uncertainty gripping my heart. I could feel the presence of something watching, something waiting. Before I could second-guess myself, I stepped forward. The key looked like it was meant for a specific lock. I scanned the altar, searching for a place where I could use it. Just then, a low rumble shook the chamber, the walls vibrating ominously. "Time is running out," the whispers urged again, now more urgent. There was no turning back. I had to unlock whatever waited ahead, but now I began to realize that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. I glanced around the chamber, desperate to find the lock that the key would fit. The artifacts on the altar gleamed under the soft glow of the carvings, each one teeming with stories begging to be unearthed. But I had to focus. The whispers rang in my ears, growing louder, urging me on. Then I saw it, a small indentation at the base of the altar, well camouflaged by decades of grime. My heart raced as I knelt before it, holding the key tightly. The moment it touched the lock, a surge of energy pulsed through me, the air crackling with potential. I turned it slowly, the metal groaning ominously as it clicked into place. A sudden rush of air filled the chamber as the altar slid aside, revealing a dark passageway leading deeper underground. I caught my breath, looking back at the chamber. The shadows seemed to stir, the ominous whispers forming a tangible weight that pressed down on my chest. But I couldn't turn back. Whatever lay ahead would either answer my questions or consume me whole. I stepped into the corridor, the darkness swallowing the light behind me. The air grew colder as I descended deeper, each echo amplifying my anxiety. I could feel the restless spirits drawing closer. Were they guiding me or were they angry? I had no way to know. As I ventured forward, I began to notice symbols etched along the walls. They mirrored the ones from the chamber, depicting scenes of a family playing, laughing, and eventually, vanishing. Something twisted in my gut. They had been here. They were like me, caught in the web of their own restless history. I continued moving forward, caught up in the haunting images, until the passage opened into a vast underground space. Here, the shadows loomed much larger, stretching across the walls and merging into one another like dark waves. But in the center of the room, a dim glow illuminated something unexpected, a series of old furniture, matching the pieces in the photographs. The realization hit me like a punch. This was their home, intact in a way the motel could never be. I felt the hair rise on my arms as I stepped closer, absorbing the scene before me, the worn sofa, the faded curtains, all remnants of the lives that had once filled this very place. This was what they wanted me to find, the heart of their sorrow. And then, a whisper rang through the room, sharp and clear this time. "Release us," it begged. As if activated by the words, the furniture shifted slightly, the air pulsing with energy. I swallowed hard. "How do I help you?" My voice was small against the overwhelming stillness. I scanned the room, desperate for anything that could offer guidance. But the presence that lingered only grew heavier, thick with despair. "Find the truth," they echoed, but the urgency in their tones pierced through me. I turned in circles, knowing I had to discover the pivotal moment, the secret that had shackled them to this place. Then one last whisper cut through the thick air, an almost tangible command: "The door." My pulse raced. What door? In that instant, I felt drawn, compelled to a corner shrouded in darkness, a space I'd initially overlooked. I stepped forward, each movement charged with a sense of inevitability. Reaching out, my fingers grazed an outline, a wooden panel just barely visible in the shadows. With a heart full of dread and hope, I shoved against it, and the door creaked open, revealing a small room consumed by darkness. The air inside was thick, as if filled with unspoken secrets. Against the far wall, I noticed something glimmer, a small chest locked tightly, engraved with those same twisting symbols. "Please," the voices mingled into a chorus, their sorrow palpable. "Unlock it." I fumbled in my pocket for the key, my fingers trembling. The moment it slid into the chest's lock, I felt time freeze around me. With each turn, shadows flickered and twisted, as if sensing release. I turned the key just once more. With a click, the lid creaked open, and a bright light burst forth, engulfing the entire room. I shielded my eyes, heart racing. The light expanded, revealing the silhouettes of the family. They stood together, grateful yet somber, their expressions a mix of relief and lingering sorrow. "Thank you," they whispered, their voices soft like the rustle of leaves in the wind. The chamber around them began to dissolve, walls melted away like frost under the sun, and the air vibrated with energy. "Wait!" I called out, but they began to lift away. "What about you? What happened?" But they were already merging into the light, and the words hung unanswered in the air. The shadows retreated, lifting the weight that had borne down on me for so long. The walls around me crumbled into dust as the world spun away. And then, silence. I was alone, standing in an empty space, free but disoriented. But I still had questions. What had led the family to that fate? And who was Trimley? Was it the name that united them or something darker? As I made my way back through the corridor, I wondered if the truth had truly been revealed, or if I'd merely scratched the surface. The echoes of their voices lingered in my mind, haunting yet beautiful. I stepped back into the world above, leaving the motel far behind. I'd escaped, but a part of me knew I would carry their weight for as long as I lived. I drove forward, questioning everything I thought I knew about folklore, reality, and the mysteries that remain waiting to be unlocked. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if the motel is still standing, if those whispers linger in the night. But mostly, I try not to think about it.